Welcome to Food Friends, a podcast inspiring home cooks to try new dishes in the kitchen by sharing trusted recipes, tips, and friendship. Hi, I'm Sonia.
And I'm Carrie. We met in Los Angeles over 15 years ago as personal chefs and haven't stopped talking about food since. We're so glad you're here. Hi, Sonia.
Carrie.
Sonia, what was your best bite this week?
My best bite this week was a snacking cake.
Okay, I'm dying to hear.
I think a snacking cake, not everyone calls them snacking cakes. Usually they're defined by cakes that are very simple to make. Mostly you just need one bowl, no complicated equipment. It's just a simpler kind of cake. And in the spirit of snacking cake is it's easy to share. It can live easily on your counter. It can last a few days. It doesn't take any crazy ingredients. So I kind of think of any of those cakes in the same category, although I'm sure there are strict rules that I don't totally know about.
Well, what I love is that you call it a snacking cake, so then I call it a snacking cake. And it also reminds me of your snacky plate. The name of something really matters. The name, and it makes you want to make it makes you want to eat it. It's fun to eat. So tell me about your snacking cake.
This is a blueberry cake with almond and cinnamon by Alison Roman. It's from her first cookbook, Dining In, but I'll link an actual recipe that you can follow. But here's the thing. I had blackberries on hand. You know, this time of year, blackberries are everywhere in the Northwest. And what I know about these kinds of cakes, like the French yogurt cake that we've talked about many times before, or when I've done like a simple sour cherry cake, is that you can often swap one berry for another. It's not true when a cake can't have too much moisture because a blackberry is juicier than a blueberry. But I just had a feeling the blackberry would be fine in this particular recipe, and it was more than fine. In fact, I think I would make it from now on.
You like it better?
I think I would make it with blackberries or raspberries. Yeah. When she writes the head note to this recipe, she talks about why isn't a blueberry muffin in a cake form? And can I achieve the experience of a muffin in the cake? And I've shared Alison Roman's blueberry muffin recipe before, and I know many of our listeners
we all make it because of you. Yeah.
And because of her, but it is such a good blueberry muffin recipe. So when I read that head note, I was like revisiting this book. I sometimes like to go to my bookshelf and look at books, and I was revisiting this and I was like, oh yeah, I've always wanted to try that. And I love that blueberry muffin recipe. So this might be good. But unlike a muffin, there's a few ingredients here that make for an extremely tender and wonderful cake, because the cake is not a muffin. So for one, she recommends a fluted tart pan, a 9-inch, but she says you can use just a regular old 9-inch cake pan. And I think—
Did you use the fluted tart pan?
I have a fluted tart pan,
of
so
I
had to use it.
I do not own one of those. Oh my gosh, I love everything about this.
Well, and from testing recipes and having a restaurant, I've amassed a lot of different bakeware. This fluted tart pan comes from when I had my restaurant. So I held on to one of them, and I love an excuse to use it. Yeah. And so what you do is you combined almond flour. Okay, and that's, I think, what makes this different than a muffin.
I love almond flour.
It really is
so
nice.
Tender, and it adds, it's like a nice flavor too.
It adds a nice flavor, it adds a nice texture. So it's almond flour, all-purpose flour, baking powder, and cinnamon. I would say you don't need the cinnamon.
I was gonna say, my instinct is like, I don't love cinnamon in a fruit dessert because
I don't either.
It kind of masks the flavor of the fruit, and I don't want that. I would maybe add cardamom. I've been saying that recently. I've been kind of adding cardamom recently, but I think cinnamon's heavy.
I just think cinnamon to me is evocative of the colder months. And so in the warmer months, I'm not craving it. I think cardamom is, because it's a little more citrusy, lends itself better this time of year. But if you're a cinnamon fan, just go for it. And then you're beating together butter, brown sugar, and regular sugar. The brown sugar is another key thing here. Brown sugar not only adds a lot of flavor because of the molasses that's used in brown sugar, it also holds in more moisture in a cake. I love seeing a pastry chef or a recipe developer add it in a recipe. And so then you're just combining the dry and the wet ingredients, and you add in your fruit. I kept a few also berries to add on the very top because everything sinks down, and I like to have layers of fruit in there. She has you sprinkle it with regular sugar before you pop it in the oven. I like to use turbinado because it has a little bit more texture.
A bit more crunch, yeah.
You could do either. And then you bake it, and it bakes in 30 minutes, and that's it. I brought it to a dessert potluck. The event was everyone brought different desserts desserts.
I mean, who doesn't want to be invited to something like that?
It was really fun, although I would say it was the kind of event where the potluck wasn't the main part of the event. It was actually my friend was getting ordained as a rabbi, and it was really special. And so I wouldn't say it was like one of those where the food was the focus of the event. So some people brought some store-bought treats, some people made some things, but this completely disappeared and seemed to be something that people enjoyed. Jonathan and I definitely enjoyed it. We tried a little while we were there too. And the thing I love most about it is the texture. It holds up as a slice, but it's incredibly soft. This is not a dry cake. I think it would also be really lovely with a little scoop of vanilla ice cream or a dollop of whipped cream.
And I just think this time of year, you can never have enough of these recipes that make a simple, tender cake that has some kind of seasonal berry or seasonal fruit in it that you can have on your countertop that you can go share at a dessert potluck if that's what you get invited to, or if you serve just at like a barbecue at a dinner. That's such a beautiful thing to offer. I do love that you are extra and have this fluted cake pan. I can guarantee that Malin also owns one of those, so I could always borrow hers. But
You can make it in a
you can make
9-inch
it
cake
in.
pan. It says
Yeah.
to make it. You don't have to have a fluted cake pan. And often with a snacking cake, that's what I like about it. If you had a
Yes.
square 9-inch pan, it would work in
Yeah.
that. If you have a round one, if you have a springform pan, if you have a fluted pan, I love that a cake like this is so simple that you don't have to be so strict about how you make it. You don't even have to use blueberries. You can use blackberries.
Yes. Yeah, that it's so forgiving. I think that's also the point, that you're making this tender, beautiful cake that is seasonal, feels exciting, and also is very forgiving. It can travel with you, all those things.
I just think also to shout out this book, I think Dining In, this is from Dining In. Every recipe I've tried from that book has been really good, has
Yeah,
been amazing.
I own
And
it too. I love
yeah,
it.
and the dessert section is really stellar. So I definitely think if you're a cookbook lover, it's worth it. And either way, we'll link this exact recipe in the show notes for you to try. So Carrie, what was your best bite of the week?
Well, Sonia, I'm so excited to tell you about this. Sonia, do you know what a chopped cheese sandwich is?
A New York chopped cheese sandwich?
A New York chopped cheese sandwich.
Yes, I am very familiar, but are you telling me you made one?
I made a chopped cheese sandwich this week,
Oh my
and
God.
I've never had a chopped cheese. The way I came to this recipe was I had a couple pounds of ground beef that I thawed out in the refrigerator that really needed to be used up. We have a really great cheeseburger spot at the end of our street that we eat at all the time. And so when I asked my son, like, what do you want for dinner? That's kind of like what he always says. And so instead of trying to replicate what already exists down the street, I decided to try this recipe. And for anyone who doesn't know what a chopped cheese is, I would explain it like if a smash burger had a baby with a Philly cheesesteak. That is kind of what it is. So
It's a good description.
yeah, you get a hot pan going. I used my cast iron. I sauteed some red onion that I had. I sort of had all these ingredients on hand. I had a half of red onion that needed to be used up. I had a couple of these really great buns that I wanted to use up. And so I sauteed the onion, and then I added the ground beef that I had salted and added a lot of black pepper to. And then you kind of smash it down.
Did you add it in a patty or you just added like a layer of ground beef on top
No,
of saute?
I added it in like kind of a big patty, like a big thin patty, and I just kind of let it sit with the onions. And then I flipped it over and I cooked it again. And once I flipped it over, then you add American cheese and then you crisp the other bottom. And then instead of serving it like you would a smash burger, you chop it up like you would a Philly cheesesteak. The chopping is kind of the last thing that you do, which really distributes the cheese in a great way, of course, because you're using a very melty American cheese. I used American cheese slices. And the other thing that I had in my freezer were these sub rolls that I had made spiedies, which is another recipe we've talked about before. And I had a couple of those rolls. And so I thawed those out. And part of the recipe that I found in the New York Times also calls for you to butter and toast the buns. So on the side, I also have a griddle. And so I had my warm griddle and my little sub rolls with a little bit of butter on top of them. And I also made a very simple special sauce. When my son was looking at it, he said, "Oh, is that Thousand Island dressing?" And I was like, "It's a version of it. You know, it's ketchup, it's a little bit of mustard, a little bit of sweet relish, a little bit of mayonnaise." So we spread that on the inside of the bread. I added the chopped cheese. You can add tomato, you can add lettuce. We didn't do either of those things. We just kind of ate it with some fresh watermelon. And it was such a good dinner. Even my son just kept saying, like, "Wow, Mom, this is so good." And he is such a Burger She Wrote kind of guy, which is the name of the place at the end of our street. And he goes, "Wait, does this count as my cheeseburger of the week?" And I was like, "No, you can still have your Burger She Wrote if you want."
Did you have a chopped cheese when you were in New York?
No, I
Oh,
didn't.
you
I
didn't.
didn't even know when I think about New York bodega sandwiches, I think about the scrambled eggs,
Bacon, egg,
bacon.
and cheese.
Yeah, a bacon, egg, and cheese on like a poppy seed roll, which is something that we can get in our neighborhood here in Los Angeles, a version of that. Obviously, it's not the
It's not the
same.
same. I think the thing is, it's like one of those New York things where there, because even when we didn't have bacon, we had an egg and cheese on a Kaiser roll at my deli. And the idea was it was called like a bodega special. You got it with a cup of
Yeah.
coffee. But I really couldn't find anyone in town who would make the rolls the way they really make them in New York. They're just something, it's like New York pizza or New York
Yes.
whatever. And I don't think you need to be striving for that at home. I think what you made sounds incredible. I don't think you need to hunt down a New York roll, but I was just curious because I know New Yorkers are so specific about the bacon, egg, and cheese, about the chopped cheese. But it is kind of this national dish of the city. And what it really is so simple and so
Yeah.
fun. And so to make a home version of it, I just think is really nice for a weeknight.
Yeah, it was just like it's all the things that I love about a smash burger is like that, you know, you sort of get those caramelized pieces, but then it's easier to eat because you've chopped it up and then all that cheese gets distributed in and you've got the flavor of the grilled onions. You know, I really got the onions toasty and then a buttered bun. Who doesn't want a buttered bun? It was really kind of a perfect meal with a little side of watermelon. And I think that little bit of pickle relish in the sauce was nice. I would probably add iceberg lettuce to mine next time. I would make this again for sure, but I don't know that I would put a big fat tomato on it.
I'm sure we have New Yorkers who will have a very specific take on this, but that's the joy of being in your own kitchen is you're
Yeah,
the boss of your own kitchen. You can
that's
decide how
right.
you want it.
Make it your own. Exactly.
Well, what a fun dinner. I love it.
Yeah, I was really excited to tell you about it. I knew that you would appreciate this. It was such a rich meal for a weeknight, just me and Mac, but it also was really fun and it felt very summery too.
Like any kind of burger night always feels fun at home,
Yes.
always feels summery, and you're just doing one little thing different.
Yeah, and it really helped me kind of move a couple things through my freezer too, which was
Yeah.
great. So now I've got more space in my freezer for ice cream.
Oh, great. Well, until next time.
Until next time,
Bye.
bye. Thanks for being our food friend.
If you enjoyed our podcast, please subscribe, leave us a review, and share this episode with friends. We love hearing from you, so follow us on Instagram or drop us a line at foodfriendspodcast.com.
Yes, we'd love to hear from you and your food friends. Happy cooking and eating.